Welcome to our first theory video at Mariachi Clothing Company YouTube channel. Now, if you want to learn about chord progressions, about music theory, not just in English, but also in Spanish, which is a huge thing that's lacking. If you want to become a better armonía player, you want to become a violinist or trumpet player that understands the instrument a lot better, or simply if you just want to communicate with other fellow musicians in Spanish, then you've come to the right spot. You probably being a mariachi musician, you know that mariachi is one of those styles of music that is so full of passion and it's so energetic. When you perform it, you understand what it is. But it also comes with a very negative connotation that other musicians have. They might say things like mariachis always play out of tune. They don't know how to play the violin. Trumpet players are always playing super loud, which they do. I mean, we all play mariachi. Trumpet players, guys, we have dynamics, which you will learn in this channel as well. But they have a very negative connotation about that. So it's our job to become better musicians so we can change people's minds and we can teach them that mariachi is not only passion, but it's also technically accurate. It's a valid style of music that we can showcase and we can play with pride. When you're playing mariachi, you're playing the music of Mexico. It's our job to make sure that people know how valuable that is to us, to you, your family, your grandparents, to our culture, to show them by leading from example. So now, let's begin learning some music theory. Now, in traditional Western music, which can be music like jazz, pop, rap, mariachi, norteño, banda, rock, classical, any of those types of songs and musical styles, we use a system which revolves around letters or syllables. So the names in English are A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. We only have 7 notes. You might be wondering how we can have music that only has 7 notes. I want you to think about math. How many unique symbols do we have that represent numbers? I'm talking about the actual numbers. Think about it. Few moments later. Most of the time I have 3 different answers. A random number, which people will just say a number 100. They'll say 100, 1,000, a million. That would be wrong. Another one that I get is infinity. The correct answer would be 10 symbols, which are 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. By the way, this is called the decimal system or the Arabic numerical system. If we need a 10, then we go back to 0, but we add a number before it, and that gives us 10. After that, all the other numbers that exist are a combination of previous numbers, and again, they follow the same order. Think about only having 7 numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to add the 0. This is called the septenary system. But to make our lives easier, we're going to drop the 0. And now we're going to get the number 7 and add it. Now this is no longer the septenary system, so I don't even know why I bothered bringing it up. I could just, have said the Avengers or something, because actually the Avengers on the original movie, it's 7, but that's another point. Now, in the case of music, we only have 7 symbols. We no longer use numbers, which we will in a future video. In the case of music, we only have 7 symbols, or rather 7 names that we use to represent all pitches, and just like with numbers, we can go infinitely high or infinitely low. These letter names correspond to pitches and they have a counterpart by syllables. Those are A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. If you don't know your alphabet to this point, please stop and get a book, because this will get way too complex for you after this. Now, those 7 letters correspond to syllables as well, which are La, Si, Do, Re, Mi, Fa, and Sol. At this point, I would recommend that you memorize this. This will become now your complete knowledge base in music. Now remember that just like with numbers, you have an infinite amount of notes going up or down in pitch. Some notes are so high that you can't physically hear them. For example, the notes that dogs, like dog whistles, that dogs can hear and you can't. And some of them are so low that you can only feel them. Now think of when you go to the movies and your whole body vibrates because there's an explosion on screen, or even when you go to a concert and there's like a super deep bass note that you can't hear but your whole body moves. That's a note that's so low that you can't really hear it, but your body can actually feel the vibration of that wave. Most of the world uses syllables, which are these right here. That is to say do, re, mi, but the US and only a few other countries use letters, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Since we're learning mariachi, we are going to focus on the fixed do solfege system, which means that whatever note you play matches its pitch on a piano. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, and si. We have notes in between, just like with numbers, we have notes in between. For example, between the number 1 and 2, we have 1.5. Between 2 and 3, 2.5. With music, we have notes, or rather sounds, in between most of these syllables. With some of them, we actually don't. So we are going to mark between the notes that don't have a sound between them. We are going to mark with a little arrow. Now between do and re, we have a sound. Re and mi, we have a sound. Fa and sol, we have a sound. Sol and la, we have a sound. La and si, we have a sound. There's no sound between mi and fa and between si and do. I'm going to go back to the numbers real quick. If I have a number between 1 and 2, that number is 1.5. But there are two different ways to get to 1.5. One of them is I start at 1 and I add half of a value to 1, and that becomes 1 plus 0.5 equals 1.5. The other way is if I start at 2 and I lower the 2 by 0.5. That's 2 minus 0.5. It also equals 1.5. In music, we don't use the plus or the minus. We use symbols called the sharp and the flat. The sharp adds half a step to the pitch. The flat deducts a half step from the pitch. I could have a note between do and re, which is a do sostenido, or it could also be called re bemol. They are one and the same. They are both the 1.5, if you will, of music. These note names that share, or these two names that share one sound, are called enharmonics. Between re and mi, we raise the pitch for re by a half step. That becomes re sostenido. We lower the pitch of mi by a half step. That becomes mi bemol, or E flat. These are called, again, sharp, flat, or in Spanish, sostenido and bemol. So re sostenido, mi bemol. There is no sound between mi and fa. We do have mi sostenido and fa bemol, but we're going to ignore it for right now because I don't want to fry your brains like Taco Tuesday, special tacos. I don't want to go there yet. Between fa and sol, we have fa sostenido or sol bemol. Between sol and la, we have sol sostenido. Remember, we are raising and lowering that la to a la bemol. And between si and do, between la and si, we have a la sostenido and a si bemol. We don't have a sound between si and do for Western music. At this point, I would recommend that, again, memorize this, practice it at home over and over until you know all the enharmonic names of the notes and which is the name of the syllables, the letters, and the ones in between.